Qor has released 20 new colors, and I've managed to get my hands on several of them. I'm going to talk about them with you guys today and swatch them for you to help you decide if you need these watercolors in your palette. This is from the Golden booth, and I recorded this while I was at NAMTA Creativation in March. If you're interested in hearing more about my experiences at Creativation, I have a couple of vlogs for you that I will link down in the description below, so I really hope you guys will check them out. This is from late June of 2024. I finally saw the sign for the new colors at David's Art Center and had to pick some up. Now, they weren't separated out, they weren't displayed individually, they were kind of intermixed, and the sign was actually higher up than I am tall and a little bit hard to see, so what I had to do was take a photo of the sign and then try to find the colors. I did not buy all of the 20 new colors. Some are just too similar to what I already own, or I didn't think they'd be particularly useful, and some of them were interference colors and pearlescent colors, and those are colors I just don't use that often. Alright, so you remember how at NAMTA Qor had released 20 new watercolor colors? Well, you guys saw I was at David's the other day and they have them in stock. And I didn't buy all of the colors. I bought the colors that I thought were the most interesting or that I thought I would actually use. There's like a pyro orange that feels really similar to what they already have, and I don't really need that. And they also released a bunch of interference and iridescent colors that I know you guys would love, but that's not really something that I use all that often. So I'll leave that to somebody else to check out. But I do have a nice little handful here of Qor's new colors that I want to swatch for you guys today. I am also going to do a follow-up video where I decant into half pans all of my Qor tubes, and we kind of do like a re-swatch and we talk about the colors, and I paint an illustration with those because it's been a while since I've done a Qor video, and they've introduced a lot of new colors and I've purchased a lot of new colors, and it would just be kind of nice to like recenter. I'm kind of doing this with amgrams as well, so I hope you guys will keep an eye out for that. But I'm going to separate these two out because I think the 20 new colors, and again, we don't have 20 here, I am aware, I think that is interesting and exciting enough to merit its own video, and I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. So before I swatch the colors for you, I went ahead and I pulled up the Qor website, so goldenartistcolors.com, and already we have the 20 new colors. Now 96 modern Qor colors deliver vibrance and versatility for artists, and they've also changed their packaging quite a bit. I think because some people didn't understand that Qor watercolor came from Golden, like Golden was manufacturing Qor. I'm not really sure how people missed out on that. I mean, I don't really do acrylics, but I have some experience painting with Golden from undergrad. I know they're a good brand, and like when I heard that they were releasing a watercolor way back in like 2014, something like that, I had to check them out. But I guess that might be like a gap in marketing or something like that. So they've kind of done a bit of a rebrand to kind of tie it together. This is what the old tube looks like. I really like Qor watercolors. I don't have any affiliation with them. I have purchased all of my Qor stuff out of pocket. That said, when I lived in Nashville and I was teaching at Plaza, the manager of that Plaza gave me a bunch of Qor samples, like hundreds of Qor samples that I could use with my classes. So I really appreciated that, and I have fond memories of that. But in general, I think they make a really high quality watercolor product, particularly if you're somebody who enjoys like really saturated watercolor. A little goes a long way with these, and they really pack a color punch. I have talked about Qor here on the channel for years. You see Qor watercolors, particularly the Qor mini palette, in a lot of my videos, just casually there as part of the tutorial. So this is a product that I use a lot, that I really like. That's part of my daily driver palette. It's kind of like a staple for what I use, and it's one of the brands that I highly recommend to people who are starting watercolor and are ready to invest. They want they don't want to try student grade, they want to start with something professional, and they want high results. Now, I know a lot of people consider Qor to be really pricey. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. They are on the more expensive end. You don't get quite as much paint, but like I said, with Qor, a little goes a really long way. So I feel like you do end up getting your money's worth out of it. Now, it's been a long time since I've checked out their website, and I don't really have like a whole lot to say about it necessarily. I feel bad that I'm saying that. They have a collab with a portrait artist that I think is really interesting. I think I probably already own most of these colors though, so I probably won't be purchasing this collaboration, but I might explore it using the colors that I have, if that makes sense. This is about the 20 new colors. Qor Artist Watercolors expansion offers artists even more opportunity for creativity with 20 new colors. And this was released February 21st, 2024. So it's actually released before NAMTA, before Creativation. Qor Artist Watercolors, which are manufactured by Golden Artist Colors, introduces 20 new colors to artists, giving them even more opportunity to add richness to their artwork. This expansion includes 11 single pigment colors, as well as a range of interference and color shift interference colors, some of which were previously only available in the popular Qor Reflective set. With Qor Artist Watercolors, artists are given the opportunity to explore and create like never before. The unique formulation of Qor Artist Watercolors accentuates the luminosity and brilliance of pigments even after drying. Qor provides the subtlety, transparency, and flow of a great watercolor with colors that have as much vibrancy and fire as the best acrylic or oil paint. With the introduction of 20 new colors, artists can now choose from 96 brilliant and bold colors, including beloved granulators, clean, bright colors, chromatic neutrals, and dazzling iridescent colors. The 20 colors included in the Qor Artist Watercolor expansion are, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, this is not available as like a set. Like I couldn't go to the store and just buy a set of the 20 new colors, which would have saved me money and would have been a little bit easier. They're also all mixed in the official Qor display. If you guys saw, they're not like in their own section the way the Iridori gouache is in their own section. They are all kind of just mixed in with the rest of the colors. So it can be harder to find these new colors. Qor is not making it easy for us to buy these new colors. So the colors in the expansion are, and I will probably mispronounce several of these. So even though the ADHD is clicking good today and I took Ritalin and I'm like, you know, vibing with the universe, I'm going to mispronounce some of these. So we're going to roll with it. Isoindolinone. Oh my gosh. How did I do that? Isoindolinone. Wow. Yellow, pyrrole orange, Disazo, not Diazo, but Disazo, Scarlet, Ultramarine, Pink Dark, Phthalo Blue, Red Shade, Naples or Naples, Yellow Deep, Benzimidazolone, Burnt Orange. These sound like the names of a medicine commercial. Perylene Crimson, Brown Umber Neutral, Payne's Gray Violet, Perylene Violet, Cadmium Purple, Iridescent Copper, Interference Violet, Interference Red, Interference Blue, Interference Green, Interference Violet Green Shift, Interference Green Orange Shift, and Interference Green Blue Shift. And these are the ones I for sure did not pick up because I just don't use these kind of colors very often. I also skipped out on Brown Umber Natural. I think I missed Cadmium Purple, which is really pretty here in the swatch. I just might not have seen it. And I skipped out on Pyrrole Orange because this kind of a super bright saturated orange tends to overwhelm when I use it. So it's not necessarily something that I'm interested in trying. Also, their Ultramarine Pink is available in their Super Granulator set, which I also talked about here. I wonder how this differs from that. These new colors are being introduced in conjunction with the discontinuation of Quinacridone Gold, Quinacridone Gold Deep, Quinacridone Burnt Orange, Mars Red Light, Ultramarine Pink, oh, that's a shame, I was just talking about that, and Cobalt Violet. Each of the 20 new colors comes in 11 milliliter size tubes. Look for the expanded selection of Qor Artist Watercolors at local art supply retailers and online beginning late February 2024. So it is late June 2024. I go to David's where I purchase these pretty often. This was the first time that I'd seen them. So I would say they got them in the past month or less. the display that Golden made, and you guys saw it, it's kind of a tiny sign. Like, come on, Golden, you make really good watercolors. You gotta do more to promote and get people excited about these, because there was not a lot of fanfare. Like, if I hadn't been at NAMTA and if I hadn't seen, they'd kind of hid the display at NAMTA. It was already inside the display. I would have missed it. And like, I am somebody who like gets really excited about this kind of stuff and is happy to talk about this kind of stuff. So if somebody like me who's looking for this kind of stuff misses it, I feel like you missed the trick there. Now, they also have the Paint Mixing Lab online. They don't have a watercolor one, so it's not of much appeal to me. And then they're the ones who released the Yinmin Blue as like a limited edition specialty lab thing. So I know somewhere around here, it's cool that they do factory tours, because a lot of paint manufacturers don't do factory tours anymore. I'm gonna have to check some of this stuff out in a little bit, but I know they have like their specialty area. I'm trying to see if I can find it though. Oh, okay, this is also nice. So they have the swatches, and then they've marked the swatches of the new colors. And these are just the not special effects ones. Well, unfortunately, I am not seeing their lab thing. Like, I forget exactly. It's been like a year. So I am going to return to my desktop so we can take a look at these, talk about the pigment information, talk about the Lightfast information, and swatch them. I found it. It just wasn't where I thought it would be. So the custom lab. So this is for, you know, bigger orders, specialty orders, like I guess kind of like Anish Kapoor, maybe somebody who has a big enough name and wants a weird enough product that it's worth the expense of manufacturing it for them. I do think it's cool though that they do this. I talk a lot about how some companies will just copy other companies. So it's cool to see Golden kind of trying to push the envelope and come out with new stuff. It's kind of exciting. So the colors I picked up are Perylene Violet. It is a series 3 color. It has a 1 for light fastness, which every company kind of does their own thing when it comes to how they describe their light fastness. So this is something I would always recommend you double check against their literature and what their scale is, just to make sure you understand it. Ideally, they would all be using like a blue wool scale and have like it standardized so that every company uses the same kind of scale. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It is semi-opaque, and I will have to actually go check and see what that full circle means. I do kind of wish paint companies would standardize their labeling and standardize their symbols so that I don't have to double check it every single time. Okay, I pulled it up. I will link it for you guys. The circle indicates a strong staining color. A half black circle indicates a semi-staining color. And then there is also a mark G for granulating, and different companies do this differently, hence why I wish they would just kind of standardize it. Okay, so again, Perylene Violet series 3. So the light fast rating are considered light fast rating of 1, like this one here, is considered excellent, EX, and those with a light fast rating of 2 are considered very good. If the light fastness rating has not been obtained according to ASTM 4303 test protocol, NA or not applicable is used, and that's coming from the Qor website. So we'll circle back again. Perylene Violet series 3. It is excellent light fastness, somewhat opaque, semi-opaque, and it is staining, and they use PV29. Payne's Gray Violet series 1, excellent light fastness, transparent, and it is staining. It uses PV29, PBK7, PB15 to a ratio of 3. Next is Ultramarine Pink Dark. It has an excellent light fastness. It is semi-opaque. It is semi-staining, and it is granulating, and it uses PV15. Then Phthalo Blue Red shade. This is series 1. Excellent light fastness, transparent, and it is staining, and it uses PB15 to a ratio of 0. Then Benzimidazolone Burnt Orange, series 2. Excellent light fastness, transparent, and staining. It uses PBR25. Then we have Disazo Scarlet, series 2. Excellent light fast, semi-transparent or semi-opaque. It is staining. It uses PR242. Then we have Naples Yellow Deep. This is a series 1. It has a light fast rating of excellent. It is semi-opaque. It is also semi-staining. It is not granulating, and it uses PBR24. Then we have Cobalt Violet. This is, it is missing a lot of information actually. It's labeled, this is an old tube, see? I thought this was one of the new colors. Wow. Anyway, series 4. It uses PV49. It has a light fast rating of good. And pretty much all of these are using Aquazol as their binder. That's Qor's secret sauce binder. Now, this is an old bottle of Aquazol. It has been out in the light. It has yellowed a little bit, but this is gum arabic of the same age. Aquazol yellows far less than gum arabic, which can make for some really brilliant blues and purples. We have Perylene Crimson. This is a series 4, ASTM 1. It is semi-transparent, it is staining, and it uses PR 179. And then finally, for me and what I bought, we have the one I cannot say, Isoindolinone, yellow, series 1, excellent light fastness, semi-opaque and semi-staining, and it uses PY110. So this is the order that I'm hoping to swatch in today. Naples Yellow Deep, Isoindolinone Yellow, I'm so sorry, Benzimidazolone Burnt Orange, Disazo Scarlet, Perylene Crimson, Perylene Violet, Cobalt Violet, Ultramarine Pink Dark, Payne's Gray Violet, and then, actually, let's swap these. Put the Payne's Gray, or the Phthalo Blue Red shade, in closer to the purples and have our Payne's Gray over here off to the side. But that is a really pretty rainbow of colors now, isn't it? So right now, all of my Blick Cotton Rag pads are in use or used up. So I am going to grab my Paul Rubens. This is a cotton rag block bound pad. So not the same, but similar. I think it'll be fine for just giving you guys an idea of the colors. So for these swatches, I'm going to go ahead and lay down a swatch of black so you guys can see the opacity. And I'm using a ceramic plate here to help with, color mixing and color dispersion so we can get a really nice idea of what these colors look like. in terms of how these new colors handle, it's pretty standard for Qor. The color is immediate and vibrant. They're quick to combine with water. A little goes a long way, and there's loads of saturated color payoff. I really love the Naples Yellow Deep. It's like a pastel, buttery old gold. It's really pretty. The Isoindolinone yellow is nice too. It's a very warm, bright yellow. Most of these colors feel very clean to the point where many of them feel very synthetic, like the Benzimidazolone burnt orange, but some are also very lovely, like the Perylene violet and the Ultramarine pink dark. The Payne's gray violet would be lovely as a neutral tint or a shadow color. Now we have a lot of kind of chemically sounding names, so often paint companies will give their colors like cute names. Bubblegum pink is a better example. Sky blue, something like that. Qor does have some kind of colors like that, but they really lean more towards like it is what it is. So what I'd like to do is kind of investigate some of these colors and see where they come from, because in terms of like art and color production, for the longest time, most of our pigments were either derived from minerals, from plants, or from animals. And it wasn't until more towards the Victorian era where we started getting a lot of synthetics, like our azo colors. So I'm wondering if these are some new chemically induced synthetic colors, or if they found a new way to process old things. So I did a little bit of digging on some of the pigments that were a little bit less familiar to me. And I don't pretend like I know everything. It's just sometimes I like to read handprint.com for fun. Who doesn't? So I decided to dig on some of the names that I'm a little less familiar with, because I am somewhat interested in modern synthetically derived dyes and lake pigments, and these seem like they are that. So we're going to start with our Isoindolinone yellow. This is, so Isoindoline can derive a couple of pigments like PY139 and PY110, which is what we have here. It's available from 6 different pigment manufacturers, and according to handprint.com, it might be the most light, fast, deep yellow available. This might be a modern alternative to Indian yellow. Several watercolor manufacturers offer a yellow PY110 similar to Isoindolinone yellow, so you may already have this and you might not need it. I also want to point out I have all of my source links and resource links down in the description below if you want to do some digging, but the sources that I found the most helpful as a watercolor artist is handprint.com, jacksonsart.com, artistpigments.org. Artist Pigments typically will list out the pigment and then how, like, what brands are offering it under what names, and give you a swatch of that color so you can see the color expression. So you probably own several of these colors already. Next is Benzimidazolone burnt orange. This is an organic compound. It was derived, or it can be derived, from B12, and derivatives are frequently used in pharmaceutical use cases and as an antifungal. Several dyes are also derived from benzimidazoles, which is probably what we're looking at here. According to handprint.com, many watercolors are now labeled PBR7 or PY43 are actually made of mixed synthetic iron oxide pigments, not natural ores. In fact, iron oxides used in watercolor paints today include pigments formulated for use in wood or leather stains, or as plastic, ceramic, or masonry colors, and are available in a very broad range of colors and grades. Benzimidazolone brown, PBR25, and we're looking at that right here, is manufactured by 2 pigment manufacturers worldwide and is unrated by ASTM, at least according to Handprint. PBR25 is available from several paint manufacturers under names such as Brown Red, Red Brown, Royal Brown, Dragon's Blood, and that's My Marie. So it's not a true Dragon's Blood, which I believe is a plant. It just looks similar to that, and also as Permanent Brown. So next is Disazo Scarlet. And DuckDuckGo tried to correct this to Diazo, so, you know, I don't know if those are like synonyms or if they are both used in the same sort of expression, or if they are two separate things that just happen to sound the same. So this is an azo dye-based color, and a similar color, Congo Red, was first invented in 1884. Azo dyes are a large class of synthetic organic dyes, according to Britannica.com, and different azos bond best with different fibers. Disazo pigments were first developed in the 1950s in Europe and include violets, browns, reds, oranges, and yellows. These dyes are used for printing, plastics, and paints, according to cameo.mfa.org. 7 paint manufacturers offer Disazo Scarlet, and it is unrated by ASTM. This may be one of the most intense red-orange pigments available, according to Handprint. This color, PR242, is available from other manufacturers under names such as Geranium Red, Vermilion, Quinacridone Scarlet, as well as Permanent Red. So now we're going to talk about the two Perylenes, Perylene Crimson and Perylene Violet. I'm going to start by talking about Perylenes in general, and then we'll talk about those two colors individually. Perylene is a polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon with a chemical formula of C20H12, and it occurs as a brown solid. It or its derivatives may be carcinogenic, and it is considered to be a hazardous pollutant. It is the parent compound of a class of rylene dyes, and this is all according to Wikipedia under the subheading Perylene. The first Perylene was discovered in 1912, but it didn't become popular as an artist color until the 1980s. According to Sandrine Moji, and I might be mispronouncing that, I do have it linked for you guys. She talks about several Perylene-based colors as well as their use cases. I highly recommend you check that link out. So we're going to start with Perylene Crimson, PR179. It's often referred to as Perylene Maroon by several other brands. 5 manufacturers create the pigment. This is a popular replacement for fugitive alizarin crimson, and you may see it as permanent alizarin crimson. And this was first developed as a dye. Then we have Perylene Violet, and I want to read something in its not entirety, but it's rather long, and this is from the EPA, so I think this is important. In September of 2022, the EPA released a final revised risk determination for PV29. The final revised risk determination finds that PV29 presents an unreasonable risk of injury to health when evaluated under its condition of use. In January of 2021, the EPA reviewed the exposures and hazards of PV29 and made risk findings on this chemical. This risk evaluation includes input from the public and peer reviewers. It talks about the hazards and exposure, magnitude of risk, exposed population, severity of the hazard, uncertainties, and other factors as part of its unreasonable risk determination. So the EPA determined that PV29 presents an unreasonable risk to human health. The agency assessed the impact of PV29 on workers, the general population, and consumers. The EPA found unreasonable risk to workers and occupational non-users from manufacture, processing, industrial/commercial use in paints and coatings and merchant ink, as well as with disposal. This is based on the severity of the health effects, specifically lung toxicity effects known as alveolar hyperplasia, or an adverse increase in the number of cells in the lungs where oxygen transfer occurs from long-term inhalation exposure. These risks drive the whole chemical determination of unreasonable risk to human health. Risk to the environment does not drive the unreasonable risk determination for PV29. The EPA did not identify risk of injury to the environment like aquatic, sediment-dwelling, and terrestrial organisms based on risk estimates, and the environmental effects, the exposures, physical chemical properties, and consideration of uncertainties. Overall, 10 conditions of use of the 14 evaluated drive the PV29 whole chemical unreasonable risk determination due to risks identified for human health. These conditions of use continue to drive the unreasonable risk determination for PV29. These conditions of use include domestic, manufacturing, and import. as well as processing, recycling, and disposal. And I thought this was important to mention because it does, in very small print, say that it contains a biocidal product and it may produce an allergic reaction, but it doesn't have any of the hazard warnings that we typically see. In fact, I am double checking. I mean, it doesn't have the ASTM approval thing right here, and this is cobalt violet, and cobalts are typically pretty toxic. But basically what concerns me is generally you'll see like a carcinogenic warning or a health warning on paint tubes that contain things that can be hazardous to people's health. My dad died of lung cancer, so I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing like this is serious, and it does bother me that Qor, this is a dangerous or a potentially dangerous product, and it was not labeled as such. The display didn't label it as such. It wasn't in any way presented that this could be a problem. I only found out that the EPA has some issues with this by digging and doing research, and I think that is unreasonable. I mean, even Wikipedia talks about it being, you know, problematic. So I don't know. I love the color. The color is beautiful, but I have to really think about this one and really consider it because I do have pets in this household and I do have some health issues of my own that impact my breathing. And that, I know painting with it is not the same as manufacturing it, but is it worth the risk that you're putting your employees at to be able to produce this color? I don't know. And you guys know I do in general really like Qor watercolors, and these are manufactured in the US. This is a US product. So there are different manufacturing restrictions for products manufactured in the US and products distributed in the US. So it's something I wanted to point out to you guys because it wasn't immediately apparent. It wasn't apparent at all when I bought it. So in general, I do think the 20 new colors introduced by Qor are very pretty. They are new to Qor, or they're a revision of existing Qor colors for colors that have been discontinued, like Quin Gold and like Ultramarine Pink. That said, a lot of these colors are already available from other watercolor manufacturers, so you probably have many of these colors already in your stash. Or they are very similar to existing colors on the market. Like this, look, I have like 6 different neutral tints and all of them are a little bit different. I can't tell you off the top of my head which company's neutral tint looks like this, but this is definitely one of those neutral tints. So you probably already have colors like this and you don't need to run out and buy them. I'm also kind of concerned that Qor is releasing beautiful colors that could cause some toxicity problems. Not super sure if we really need PV29 in our lives. It's very similar to naphthalide maroon. And watch, I'm going to end up with egg on my face. I'm going to research naphthalide maroon and find out that it is just as bad. But this is just another reminder that professional grade watercolors are, while we like to play with them and we enjoy using them, they're not a toy. They're not intended for young children. They're not intended to paint it on your skin. They're not intended for you to accidentally drink your paint water, which is why I don't ever use eating or drinking vessels with my paints. I always use stuff specifically purchased for painting or things that obviously look like they are for painting. At this point, I don't even clean my brushes in the same sink that I do my dishes in, right? And that might be a bridge too far. We just happen to own a home that has a bar sink, so that is the watercolor sink. So, you know, just keep in mind that watercolors can be toxic. Watercolors can have toxicity issues, but in general, with normal care and day-to-day use, you should not notice any toxicity issues. Now, if you're like eating the paint or putting it all over your hands, that might be a different case. If you have pets who get into your watercolor water, that might also be something to keep in mind. Avoid the cadmiums, avoid the cobalts, avoid the Perylenes, that sort of thing. But in general, professional grade paints are intended for adults with adult discretion to use, not young children. So if you enjoy painting with young kiddos in your life, there are some wonderful alternatives and some cadmium-free alternatives. And maybe if we request that these companies produce some nice watercolors that are non-toxic, that are safe for a wide array of age range to use together, they might consider putting together like a paint with me kit or a guardian and child sort of kit. You get what I'm saying? But like, these are not that. So these are beautiful colors. You probably will not die without them. I do really enjoy the Naples Yellow Deep though. That is a really pretty color. It's really warm and buttery. And I also like the Isoindolinone. Wow, that I say it wrong differently every time. That's impressive. I really like this color as well. It's a really nice replacement to Indian Yellow, although I would not really say it's a replacement for Queen Gold. And I know that's kind of what they were going for, is like replacements for some of these colors that they can't offer anymore. The Phthalo blue red shade is also very pretty, but it's also very similar to Prussian blues, and they may even share pigments in common. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and swatching the new colors from Qor. I am really excited to find these in my local store. I'm really excited to share them with you guys, and hopefully this was helpful in helping you guys decide which of these you want, which of these you don't need, which of these you can't live without, and which of these you can pass on. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure, if you're interested in watercolor paint reviews, if you're interested in watercolor swatches, if you're interested in what's new in the world of watercolor, that you subscribe and hit the bell notification. I'm going to be doing a big Qor overview soon where I decant all the Qor tubes that I have. I do swatches and I do another field test just to kind of freshen things up and give me a chance to talk about this brand and talk about how far this brand has come. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you stick around. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you guys again really soon. Make sure you check that description for all relevant links, because we talked about a lot today and I think you guys will find it interesting. Bye guys!
Before I lose y'all, we talked earlier about how Qor can be kind of pricey. So their tubes generally run from about $12 to $20, and this is definitely true with their new colors. The most expensive one was about 18 bucks. These paints had a little bit of time to dry on the ceramic platter, so I decided to test how well they reconstitute and do some mass tone swatches for you guys. I had zero difficulties reconstituting any of these colors, whether they are a dry, flat puddle on the ceramic or piled up mass tone paint. They still re-wet and reworked quite easily. I did not try a lift test just yet. I may do that in the big video that I have coming up soon. So if you're interested in how lifting these paints are, keep an eye out for that.